The Draconian Armada was the terror of the galaxy, tall warships shaped like blades of obsidian, carrying armies bred only for conquest. Worlds burned in their wake, and resistance usually lasted mere days. But when their fleet entered the Perseus Rift, something changed. The rift was dark and silent, filled with strange gravitational shifts and sensor interference. No one had ever dared enter it before, but the Draconians saw Earth's solar system beyond it, unprotected, primitive, perfect for their next claim. They sent 30 warships in. 30 vanished. No debris, no signals, no escape pods, nothing. Galactic Council patrols sent to investigate also went silent. Panic began to spread in whispers, not because the Draconians had vanished, but because something had made them vanish. Somewhere deep near Neptune, hidden behind sensor cloaks and false gravitational data, Earth's secret outpost station Obsidian received the first static bursts of Draconian distress. Commander Ava Corwin stood in silence as garbled screams and strange electrical whines crackled from the speakers. Earth's leaders believed their planet was still playing catch-up to the galaxy, but Ava knew better. She had led Project Revenant for 20 years, preparing for the day the stars came calling. Earth had long watched the galaxy in secret. They saw every war, every weapon, and every arrogant empire. Humans never rushed to join the Council. They listened. They learned, and they built in the shadows. Behind the gas clouds of Neptune, Station Obsidian housed a weapon unlike any known in the galaxy, a folding array that could bend space for a split second, enough to displace ships outside normal space. Not destruction. Not death. Displacement. They called it the Paradox Array. The world believed humans were behind in tech. But Ava's team had discovered how to twist gravity like string. When the Draconians entered the rift, Earth watched. When they crossed the trigger line, Ava gave the order. The Paradox Array fired silently, invisible to the eye. Space rippled. The fleet disappeared. Now, standing before a vast holographic display of the solar system, Ava whispered, "It worked." The crew around her remained silent, knowing what they'd just done was both history and secret. The Council would notice soon. Questions would be asked. Ava was already preparing answers, false leads, dummy signals, planted wreckage. But deep inside, she knew this was just the beginning. The Draconians would come again, or someone worse. The array could only hold so long before someone discovered the truth. As she walked through the dim corridor of the station, passing engineers and analysts working in tense silence, she entered a secure chamber marked REVENAENTCORE. Inside was a glass sphere floating above magnetic rings. It pulsed softly. Artificial intelligence connected to the array, constantly calculating threats, anomalies, and folding patterns. "Status?" she asked. A calm voice responded. One unit escaped the event field. Estimated 23% chance of full retreat. 72% chance of Council involvement. Ava narrowed her eyes. A witness had slipped through. It didn't matter. Earth was ready. They had been ready for years. The galaxy never saw humans as a threat. They called them new, weak, unproven. And that was Earth's greatest weapon being underestimated. Ava stared out the reinforced glass window into the blackness beyond. Somewhere out there, a lone Draconian warlord was fleeing. Panicked, confused, and furious. But they would not understand what had happened. Not yet. Ava turned back to the AI. "If the Council sends scouts," the voice answered. "Protocols in place. Illusion fields, memory loops, wreckage mimics. Deception rate, 89%. She nodded. Still, she felt it deep inside. A storm was coming. Earth had made its first move in the shadows. Now, eyes would turn. But that was fine. After all, shadows were where humanity had learned to survive. And sometimes, the quietest creatures in the dark are the most dangerous. The stars above Neptune glowed dimly through the thick sensor-jamming clouds as Station Obsidian drifted in total silence. Hidden from the rest of the galaxy, its hull coated with stealth alloy and its data streams buried deep beneath decoy frequencies. Inside, Commander Ava Corwin walked through the observation deck, staring at the hollow black beyond where 30 Draconian warships had once flown with pride and power, only to vanish in less than a heartbeat. The paradox array had done its job perfectly. It had folded local space, opening a crack between dimensions just wide enough to swallow the fleet whole, trapping them in what humans called the null pocket. It was not death, not yet, but a place outside time and outside help. The Draconians, known for their strength, were now drifting helpless in a frozen prison of folded gravity and silent echoes. But now, something had changed. A soft alarm chimed across the command floor, and Ava turned sharply as the main screen flared to life with a new report. "We've detected a breach," her chief analyst said, eyes wide. "One of the ships. It's gone." Ava stepped closer, reading the data. One ship had broken free of the null pocket, using a burst of raw power to punch through the damaged boundary edge, likely a last attempt by a desperate crew. There were no transmissions, no warnings, just a jump signature vanishing toward Council space. Ava's face remained calm, but her thoughts raced. The secret would not stay buried now. Somewhere out there, a survivor was telling the tale, and the galaxy would begin to ask questions. She turned to her AI interface, the Revenant core, and asked for immediate countermeasures. Within seconds, Earth's deep space drones activated, scattering decoy signals across the quadrant, simulating pirate ambushes, solar flares, and phantom anomalies to blur the truth. Meanwhile, within the null pocket itself, the trapped Draconian ships began to drift slowly, their systems flickering, crews confused, frightened, and cut off from all outside input. Inside one of the warships, a captain named Krell sore clawed at his command console, trying to reach anyone, but all he heard was static and the low groan of stressed metal. His ship was floating in a pale gray void, surrounded by 1,000 shadow reflections, each one mimicking their own ship in the strange curvature of space. Time seemed slower here, and lights failed without reason. Some of his crew had gone mad already, thinking the void was speaking to them, whispering in Draconian dialects that didn't exist. When they tried to fire their weapons, the energy blasts circled back and struck their own hulls, bent by the twisted laws of the pocket. As panic spread, Creel Sore realized they hadn't just been trapped. They had been placed in a prison designed by minds far more subtle and terrifying than they had imagined. They had underestimated the humans. Elsewhere, across the galaxy, the Galactic Council received fragments of a garbled transmission from the escaping Draconian ship filled with static warnings and one repeated phrase: "The humans did it." At first, many delegates laughed. Earth? A planet barely accepted as spacefaring? But the panic in the warlord's voice was too real to ignore. A special inquiry was called, and scouts were sent toward the rift. But none returned. The fear began to grow, especially among smaller species that had once dismissed Earth entirely. Rumors spread of ghost signals near Neptune, of phantom fleets seen in the dark between moons, of ships vanishing into thin air without a trace. One trader swore he saw a massive human ship with no lights or markings drift past Pluto, completely silent, and when he turned to follow it, his nav system reset to 0 and he found himself facing Earth's moon without explanation. Council spies tried to infiltrate Earth's networks, but found nothing, only false data trails, loops, and decoy satellites. In truth, Earth had been preparing for this for decades, watching, learning, adapting in silence. Project Revenant had grown beyond anyone's knowledge, fueled by AI prediction models, quantum stealth, and the one thing no other species had mastered: deception born from desperation. Humanity had faced extinction many times, not from alien invasions, but from its own history: war, famine, climate collapse. And it had survived. That survival instinct had shaped Project Revenant not to conquer, but to endure, and to make sure no one ever saw Earth as weak again. Back on Station Obsidian, Ava stood before a small team of hand-picked strategists. "We have a window," she said. "The Council doesn't know what happened yet, but they will. The Draconian survivor will reach them. In 2 days. We need to control the narrative before that." Her lead strategist, Malcolm Rain, nodded. "We leak a story," he said. "One where the Draconian fleet entered a forbidden sector. We add ghost signals, fake wreckage, and hints of a superweapon from another age." Ava nodded. "Make Earth the last place anyone wants to investigate. Make it haunted." While the ghost fleet remained trapped in the null pocket, their systems failing, their minds breaking, Earth's grip on the situation tightened. Drones flew invisible paths through the outer solar system, laying data mines and distortion fields. Satellites broadcast false quantum echoes, and every signal sent into the rift returned scrambled, unreadable, or filled with eerie static and ancient Earth music, sometimes soft jazz, sometimes lullabies, all part of the psychological game. Council scientists who studied these echoes found impossible equations hidden in the noise, numbers that bent physics, symbols that suggested higher dimensional manipulation. Panic set in, and whispers began that Earth had uncovered something older than the galaxy itself, or had built something that bent space like paper. The truth was simpler, but more dangerous. Earth had become masters of fear. Commander Ava knew it could not last forever. Eventually, someone brave enough would come, someone with power and determination to uncover what truly happened. But for now, the Draconian fleet was a ghost fleet, forgotten and unreachable, and Earth's hand remained hidden. She stared at a live feed from the null pocket where the 30 warships floated in silence, their hulls drifting, some colliding gently, some already showing signs of internal damage. The paradox array had held, but its strain was growing. "How long before containment fails?" she asked the AI. 71 days at current energy levels, it replied. "But psychological decay of captives will occur in 12. Ava sighed. That would be enough. By then, the galaxy would believe what Earth wanted them to believe. She walked to her private quarters and opened a small case on her desk. Inside was a worn photo, an old Earth ship, the kind that had first left orbit 2 centuries ago, with words printed along its side, "Hope, Voyager." Her grandfather had served on it. They had gone out into the stars with hope, but the stars had not been kind. Now, Earth had hope of a different kind, a quiet, hidden strength, born in silence and sharpened in the dark. As she closed the case, alarms lit up again. Another ship had approached the rift, a scout class, not Draconian. Ava smiled slightly. "Let them look," she whispered. "We'll show them exactly what they're not ready to see." The ghost fleet remained silent, spinning in darkness, while Earth, unseen and underestimated, continued to write a story the galaxy would never forget. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was unlike any other structure in the known galaxy, suspended in orbit above the peaceful planet of Varellus Prime, with its walls made of shimmering crystal that responded to thought and changed color with the mood of the room. But on this day, the entire chamber burned a deep red, an ancient warning color that meant fear, war, or a threat beyond measure. Council leaders from over 100 species had gathered, their forms strange and beautiful. Some with feathers, some with glowing skin, others with scales or shells, all watching as the huge central screen flickered to life and played back a partial message recovered from the last known Draconian. "Scout to return from the Perseus Rift." The message was broken, filled with static and visual distortion, but one thing was clear. The ship's commander was screaming in terror, his voice hoarse, his armor scorched, his eyes wide and full of panic as he repeated again and again, "The humans. They did this. They took the fleet. They have something." And then the feed went dead, replaced by a single audio signal of a soft earth lullaby, the kind sung to children in the early 21st century, echoing through deep space like a haunting ghost. The council chamber fell into uneasy silence as eyes turned toward the section where Earth's representative usually sat. But today the seat was empty, a quiet sign of distance, or maybe something more. A tall being known as Valric Sen, leader of the Andari people, rose from his seat, his long limbs folded behind his back. "This cannot be," he said, his voice layered and smooth. "Earth is not capable of such a thing. They only recently gained full council access. Their technology is decades behind ours, but others were not so certain." Reports had begun surfacing from traders and explorers who claimed to have seen strange objects near Earth's outer system's silent machines that shimmered like ghosts, signals that could not be decrypted, and a growing pattern of ships that simply disappeared near the rift. A historian from the Mechoan archives stood next. "There are old records," she said, her shell-like body glowing, "from the first contacts centuries ago. Even then, humans were unpredictable. Their history shows rapid evolution, high adaptability, and a tendency to grow strongest during crisis." A third voice joined, sharper, belonging to Ka Tarek, a high commander of the Draconian military, his armor scratched from past wars. "We sent 30 ships," he growled. "Not scouts, not merchants, warships. Gone. Without a trace. And now you hesitate to believe the survivors?" A debate exploded across the chamber, voices rising, each species adding theories and concerns. Some believed Earth had discovered an ancient weapon. Others thought they had allied with some hidden force. A few even whispered about AI uprisings or forbidden dimensional research. Meanwhile, far from the chamber, a quiet diplomat named Ellen Tal, from the peaceful planet Carousel, requested private audience with the council. She had just returned from a classified visit to Earth, one not approved by the main council, but known to a few. She stepped forward when called, her eyes calm, her presence humble. "I was there," she said. "I met with Commander Ava Corwin of Earth's Secret Defense Force. What I saw cannot be explained easily." The chamber fell silent again. She did not admit to destroying the Armada, Ellen continued. But she did not deny it either. She showed me something instead, a transmission log, a single file. It was a message from Earth to the galaxy. A message never sent. It said, "We do not wish to conquer. We only wish to remain free. Come in peace, and we will share everything. Come with chains, and you will vanish in the dark." Gasps spread through the room. Ellen went on, explaining how Earth had apparently watched the galaxy for decades, studying from the shadows, never speaking but always listening, and how they had prepared not to attack, but to defend using technology no one else believed they could have. She spoke of hidden stations, energy pulses that bent light, and drones with no power signatures, and finally of something called the paradox array, though she admitted she had only heard the name whispered. The council was shaken. The image of Earth as a small, backward world had been comfortable. It had allowed stronger empires to ignore them or offer them crumbs. But now they were faced with a new truth, one where humans had survived quietly in the dark, building something they had no name for. Valrixine turned again to face the chamber. "If what she says is true," he said carefully, "then Earth is not just advanced. They are strategic. And worse, they are patient." That word struck deep. Patience was rare among powerful empires. They grew through force or trade, not waiting, not watching. Patience meant planning. Patience meant traps. The Draconian leader slammed his clawed fist on the table. "Then we must strike now, before they grow stronger." But another voice rose, one rarely heard, from a species that rarely spoke. The Velnari delegate, a translucent being who shimmered like oil and could sense emotional patterns across species, floated forward. "They are not angry," it said. "They are not afraid. They are warning us. And there is something else, something deep, something old, something hidden." The chamber paused. Delegates exchanged nervous glances. For a moment, all the noise faded, replaced by the quiet hum of the crystal walls. A decision had to be made. Would the Council confront Earth, investigate further, or try to open dialogue? A motion was passed barely. A small neutral fleet would be sent to Earth, not for war, but for answers. A diplomatic mission, protected by force, tasked with uncovering the truth. As the delegates filed out, Ellen Tail remained behind, staring at the empty seat meant for Earth's representative. She remembered Ava Corwin's eyes, calm, sharp, ancient, in a way that made her wonder just how far back Earth's plans really went. Meanwhile, back on Station Obsidian, Ava watched her screens. She already knew the Council would come. She had counted on it. Earth's defense grid had already shifted, moving drones into new patterns, layering new illusions, and preparing a reception. Not of war, but of clarity. The null pocket still held the ghost fleet, their cries silent, their weapons useless, and soon the galaxy would be forced to decide what mattered more, power or peace. Ava walked alone to the observation deck and looked at the stars. Humans had always been afraid of the dark once, but then they learned to see in it, to move within it, and finally to become part of it. And now, as the galaxy turned its eyes toward Earth, one question echoed louder than any weapon. How did they do it, and how much deeper did the truth go? Ava smiled softly and whispered, "Let them come. They'll see soon enough." Across the silent void of deep space, beyond the flickering remains of broken probes and phantom signals. The second Draconian Armada emerged from hyperspace like a storm held back for too long. Their warships huge and burning with fury, their hulls marked with the symbols of vengeance, and their orders clear. Reach Earth, uncover the truth, and if needed, erase the threat forever. Commander Varsal, chosen to lead this new fleet, watched from the bridge of the Blood Rain, the largest war cruiser ever constructed by the Draconian Empire. His cold eyes locked onto the distant blue-green marble of Earth as it came into view on long-range scans, spinning so quietly, almost too small, too soft to hold any danger, and yet every piece of data warned of what had happened to the first. Armada, 30 ships lost without a trace. No wreckage, no signals, only the madness of a single survivor and whispers of something called the Paradox Array. Varsal did not believe in ghosts or myths. He believed in war, in power, and in fire. And as he paced the dark steel floor of his bridge, his second officer, a sharp-tongued veteran named Kelrin, informed him that their scout ships had already disappeared again, 3 this time, each one, vanishing near the edge of Neptune's orbit, with no sign of battle or distress calls, just sudden, total silence. Varsal slammed his fist onto the console, the sharp hiss of pain ignored as he snarled at the communications officer to scan every inch of space, to look for pattern shifts, for gravitational warping, for anything that might point to a weapon, but nothing appeared. Only static and distant echoes of old Earth music playing on impossible frequencies, songs from a dead century that should not have survived into space. Far behind them, the Galactic Council watched in secret, sending cloaked observers to track the second Armada, desperate to see if Earth truly held the power hinted at in rumor and fear, while others, like the Velnari and the Mikoan historians, whispered quietly that humanity had unlocked something forbidden, something not meant for young species, something that could bend time and space without leaving scars. But to Varsal, it was all weakness, fear of shadows, fear of stories, and he would prove the truth by force. As the fleet approached the asteroid belt, where Earth's hidden satellites had long monitored and catalogued every ship that passed, a sudden change occurred. Space itself rippled like water around them, and several ships screamed warnings as their navigation systems spun wildly out of control. Lights flickered, artificial gravity surged, and stars in the distance twisted, as though the laws of space had been rewritten for just a moment. Then came the voice, soft and smooth, across every channel at once. "Turn back," it said in plain galactic standard. No emotion, no threat, just a calm request, repeated 3 times before silence returned. And though most of the crew dismissed it as interference, Varsal knew better. It was them, the humans, reaching out in their strange way, using technology they should not have, pretending to be calm while hiding a blade. The fleet pushed forward, slower now, more cautious, but not turning back. They crossed into Earth's solar system, and suddenly, the fleet's lead ship, the Dagger's Wrath, vanished. No debris, just gone, as if erased from existence. Panic rippled through the Armada, but Varsal barked orders, keeping control, forcing the others to hold position and scan the space around them. And what they found chilled them deeper than any battle ever had. A hole in reality itself, a patch of sky where sensors returned nothing, not even the usual cosmic background, just empty data, a blind spot in the universe. Kelrin whispered that it matched old files, ones buried in Draconian vaults after their darkest experiments, files that mentioned folded space, black arrays, and the possibility of spatial knives technology that could cut into the very skin of reality and hide what was inside. And then, without warning, dozens of small objects began to appear on the fleet's long-range radar fast. Tiny, silent, drifting without engine signatures, like broken satellites or junk. Except they were. Not each one had been carefully shaped, layered with stealth alloys, and encoded with impossible signal distortions. Earth's hidden drones, now coming to life. They didn't attack, not yet, just hovered near the edge of draconian formations, reflecting ship signals back onto themselves, warping communications, bending radar, creating shadows that confused even the most advanced scanners. Varsol knew he had to act before fear spread further, so he gave the order form a wedge, move toward Earth, engage, if fired upon, and so the fleet surged forward. But the stars grew dimmer the closer they came, and a strange cold began to press into the ships, not from space, but from inside, as if the very systems were shivering. Crew members reported hallucinations, whispers in their own languages, memories that weren't theirs. And in one case, a captain swore he saw his own death replayed on his main view screen. Earth still had not fired a single shot, and yet the fleet was unraveling. Finally, Varsol made contact, not with diplomats, not with soldiers, but with one calm woman who appeared on their screens, wearing a black uniform with no insignia, standing in a control room filled with glass panels and star maps. Her voice even and soft. "You do not belong here," she said. "This is not a battlefield. This is a grave. The first armada sleeps below us, frozen in time. Do you wish to join them?" Varsol snarled that he had come for answers, for justice. But she only tilted her head and replied, "You already have your answer. You came with war." We responded with silence. Then she vanished, and the ships began to feel the pull gravity wells opening where none should exist, space folding, twisting, ships sliding out of formation without engines moving them, and the second wave began to vanish, not in fire but in stillness, trapped like the first, placed carefully into the null pocket that waited just beyond sight. The fleet broke, scattering, fleeing, some ships making wild jumps, others crashing into asteroids, only a handful surviving to escape and carry the tale back on Earth. Ava Corwin watched the stars from her silent station, her hand resting on the control core of the Paradox Array, its slow pulse echoing with the rhythm of quiet vengeance. And when her AI asked what to do next, she simply said, "Let them remember this Earth is not a colony, not a target, not a weakling. Earth is the storm in the silence, and the galaxy has only just begun to listen." In the aftermath of the Second Armada's mysterious disappearance, the galaxy stood on edge. Its most powerful empires, silenced by fear and uncertainty, the once mighty Draconian fleet had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions. And as rumors spread, the Galactic Council convened in secret, desperate to understand the fate of their warriors and the true nature of humanity's hidden power. Amidst the turmoil, a lone Draconian scout ship, the Shadow's Edge, emerged from the void, its hull battered and systems failing, carrying a single survivor who spoke of impossible technologies and a voice that had warned them to turn back. His account, fragmented and laced with terror, described a realm where time stood still and ships were swallowed by darkness, never to return. The council, shaken by the testimony, debated their next move, torn between launching a full-scale invasion or seeking diplomatic engagement. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Ava Corwin monitored the unfolding events from the hidden depths of Station Obsidian, her expression unreadable as she reviewed the data streams and prepared for the inevitable response. As tensions escalated, a coalition of species, led by the cautious Velnari and the inquisitive Mekoan, proposed a peaceful delegation to Earth, hoping to uncover the truth without further bloodshed. The mission, composed of diplomats, scientists, and a small security detail, embarked on their journey, their ships cloaked, and communications silent, entering the solar system with trepidation. Upon reaching Earth's orbit, they were met not with hostility, but with silence, the planet's defenses seemingly dormant. Yet the delegation sensed they were being watched. Guided by encrypted signals, they descended to a secluded location where they were greeted by Ava herself, who welcomed them with a calm demeanor and an invitation to witness the reality behind the myths. Inside the depths of Station Obsidian, the delegates were shown the Paradox Array, a marvel of engineering that manipulated space and time, capable of rendering entire fleets inert without a single shot fired. Ava explained that humanity had developed this technology not for conquest, but for protection, a deterrent against those who sought to dominate through force. She recounted Earth's history of resilience and adaptability, emphasizing their desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual respect among civilizations. The delegates, awed and humbled, recognized the gravity of their discoveries and the potential consequences of further aggression. Returning to the Council, they presented their findings, urging a re-evaluation of humanity's role in the galaxy and advocating for diplomacy over warfare. While some factions remained skeptical, the majority agreed to open formal relations with Earth, acknowledging their sovereignty and the need for unity in an increasingly complex universe. As the galaxy adjusted to this new paradigm, Ava stood once more on the observation deck of Station Obsidian, gazing at the stars with a sense of cautious optimism, aware that while the immediate threat had passed, the echoes of past actions would linger and the ashes of old conflicts could still ignite future flames. Yet, in that moment, she allowed herself a brief respite, confident that humanity had secured its place among the stars, not through domination, but through the strength of resolve and the power of choice.